Yeah, so now we're live.
Okay.
And then let me get a little housekeeping out of the way. No?
Okay.
So, uh, hi everybody. Welcome to the FB live stream of 032 Conversations. You can listen to this podcast on 032.com in the future, like in 2 weeks or so. This will be posted there. There's over about 100 interviews on the site, so feel free to listen. Today's guest is Coach Pio Solon. He's the program director of Epic Performance and Fitness. He graduated with a degree in Bachelor of Sports Science and from the University of the Philippines Diliman. He is also pursuing his postgraduate degree in international health. Coach Pio is passionate about using fitness and wellness as a means to keep our people healthy and disease free, knowing that a healthy populace is a productive populace, using sports to develop and cultivate character in children, and uplift the education of sports coaches in the country. Coach Pio is also a member of the Australian Strength and Conditioning Association and currently also serves as the athletic director of Southwestern University. He also sits as a member of the technical panel for sports and exercise science and physical education with the Commission on Higher Education, as well as a member of its regional quality assurance team. By this is like one of the longest introductions I've ever had to read.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's the cookie cutter version.
Yeah, well, so how are you in this with the craziness that we are all currently going through?
Uh, we're good. I'm naturally introverted, so the quarantine works to my favor for the most part. This the first time I've relaxed in a long time, or so I thought. No, I thought that as I was gonna be relaxed for the most part, but so many different projects started coming in, and I have requirements to do for Australian strength and conditioning. So we're busy. There's a lot of innovation going on, not just in fitness but with education. So it forces us, to think of new ways. And I think as people, we try to remember what we used to do before. But the challenge really is looking ahead and trying to figure out, what to do next. And this past few months, I think everyone in all industries are realizing that we have to think ahead and think of the new normal and create it.
I'm curious, Bike. You mentioned like kind of like you have to do some innovation.
Yeah.
Is there anything specific that you can talk about? Because like, for example, I have two kids, and you know, we just start. So of course, like one of them goes to school, supposed to go to well, one of them does go to school, and then
Yeah.
but with this whole new normal, so now we
Right.
have to we're doing homeschool right now, and
Mhm.
I think this week was my son's first week at homeschool. I mean, for the new school year, ba? No?
Uh-huh.
And actually, ever since the lockdown, we just decided, you know what? Let's just do like an informal. I know
Mhm.
to end the last school year, we actually started doing home. We already started doing the homeschool, and then after that
Yeah.
school year ended, we kind of just kept it going.
Right.
And what we did was like 3 times a week. There's wala lang good. He's 4 years old, so it's like
Yeah.
learn the alphabet,
Yeah.
right? And then 2 times a week it's PE, and
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'm tasked to do,
Uh-huh.
you know.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah.
So I mean, like it's changed for us, no. I'm
Right.
kind of curious. Is there anything that you can talk about in terms of innovations that you guys had to do?
Well, a lot of that is migrating the content into, yeah, as you said, no, na home-based learning. So it's really just migrating the content, but it's also about making the content fit the medium. And it really depends. A lot of the parents who started homeschool early have an advantage, but a lot of other parents are also catching up. We also find that in education, the attention span is a lot shorter when it's done through online. compared to when you're in person. So it also changes the learning strategies and also the teaching strategies of different educators. Um, you mentioned physical education, no? And actually now the recommendations are to let children play more so they have more attention span.
Mm.
Sa una, when you play, it means that you don't have any attention span. We're actually finding out the opposite. When children play more, they become more attentive when they're learning,
Yeah,
which
you
is
know what
quite
I've been. Yeah, you know what I've been doing. So like, um, actually, that's my approach. Like,
yeah,
I can tell you by that I was not the best student in
right.
general. So
Me
I
too.
thought about, oh yeah, diba? So so it's funny. Like the people who aren't the best students, but Murag, you end up thinking a little bit more about education,
Uh huh.
especially if you have kids, adana. So me, I realized nga, it's just easier to kind of let them choose what they want to do
Mm-hmm.
and then somehow figure out, okay, this is what they want to do and then what do I want them to gain from it. So like in terms of PE, for example, basically I just want them to sweat it out, to
Yeah.
expand energy, because they're 2 and 4.
Yeah.
So like we found some like YouTube songs that they like,
Uh
and
huh.
then like na by the way, just play the YouTube. Like there's this, I don't know, you have kids, by?
Well, I have a stepson, and we run a lot.
Oh
So
really?
we sprint, and we play ping pong. Uh,
Oh, how
so
old is he?
he's 13.
Oh great. Oh wow, that's
Yeah,
big.
and he's a lot more. I think he's a lot more athletic than I am.
Hmm.
So it forces me to keep up. Uh,
Oh yeah, at that age you can just keep going.
yeah, wala na. I felt a lot older the past 3 years, but that's also because I was always, when you're a former athlete or when you were active before, magdako-huna ba? So you're thinking na, kaya naman sa yun ra, and then, you don't take care of yourself, and then, di naman di kaya.
Oh yes, if I can't imagine like trying to keep up with him, no?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, okay. So my kids are like 2 and 4. So there's this game
Right.
that they have. It's called Floor is Lava, and basically they pretend that the floor is kind of lava, so they have to climb on something. So
Right.
there's a song that's I forgot exactly who's. There's so many Floor is Lava songs. There's one particular song. They get while it's playing, and
Uh-huh.
then when it gets to the part in the song where the guy goes, "Oh, the floor is lava," then the kids have to jump on a chair
Uh-huh.
or something. So what I
Uh-huh.
made them do is when it's the song, they just run, you
Uh-huh.
know. So they have
Yeah.
to run for like 20 seconds or something
Right.
around like the garden, and
Yeah.
then they can barely make it back before the part of the song goes, "No, the floor is lava." So they have to like run fast,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
no? And well, and then lingaw kay sila, and then it's very easy for me. Like I'm not doing it. It feels like I'm cheating. Honestly,
Uh-huh.
it feels like I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, and you're on the right track. A lot of, these kids, well, I would not know, and I don't have the data, but we're seeing a lot of kids on their gadgets, and they're really just glued to it. And although this is not really proven yet, but there seems to be a relationship between the amount of screen time a child has and ADHD. And
Mm.
and we're seeing na tanang daghang kay bata now, the parents are, figuring out now, what did we do wrong, but it's really a lot of screen time and less, physical time. So you're on the right track.
Oh well, we'll see. I'll find out in like maybe 15 more years.
Oh yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Uh, so, by one of the reasons why I wanted to have you over on the podcast is because I caught your talk, no,
Right.
katong yeah. Actually, I just saw you post about it, and I was like, I looked at my calendar. I was like, oh, I'm free. I'll give it a listen. And yeah, no, and then you talked about the cost of lifestyle disease.
Yeah.
No, maybe we can start with that. No, can you talk about that
Right.
just
So
briefly?
Over the past 20 or 30 years, a lot of study has really revolved around heart disease, cancer, high blood sugar, and all these things. And we're finding out na, it's not a genetic thing. We think of it as a genetic or hereditary thing when in fact it's really brought about by habits. And this has been an interest of mine for maybe the past 10 years. How do we prevent all of these things? Okay, when you think of exercise, you just walk in the mall, and that can be a form of exercise. So it's free. Healthy eating is also, you have to eat, but what you eat, you know, is what nourishes you. And if you eat crap, then obviously your health becomes crap when that accumulates. So we're finding out the kaning lifestyle disease. Uh, and this is, I probably learned this over the past 3 years, is that what out of every five Filipinos, there's one with high blood pressure. And out of all the Filipinos, 15% um, has some sort of high blood sugar. And all these things are really preventable with exercise and good nutrition. But how we got there is entirely up to our habits. Um, if, a lot of the times also, these diseases, murag attribute to kaliwat, na asa mong kaliwat ang heart disease, na asa mong kaliwat ang diabetes. But when we look closely, it's not so much that the genes were passed down, but the habits were passed down. For example, in let's say our family, we like having lechon every Sunday. So when we get married, we bring along that habit with us, and so that becomes, oh, it's in my family. When in fact, the habit of eating too much every Sunday was really the one that's in your family. So and we talk about this now. Before we like to talk about it a lot, but there was really no traction. Pag abot sa COVID, where people are like, oh shit, I have to figure out my health. So now people are more receptive. We're starting it out in Southwestern. Um, I treat Southwestern as some sort of an incubator for all these programs, because I'm in it, and we have some sort of we have some sort of
Hello,
is
Pio?
it back? Is it back?
Yeah, yeah. You're saying you treat Southwestern as some sort of incubator.
Yeah. So whatever ideas we have for, let's say, corporate wellness and or fitness or sports, that's where we do it. And so far so good. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah,
yeah. So you, I
yeah,
don't know. So you mentioned like the COVID-19, diba? And yeah,
yeah,
it seems like a lot of the a lot of the people who get seriously hit by the disease are the ones who are are the ones who are suffering from what you just mentioned, like kanang high
yeah,
blood pressure, diabetes.
yeah,
Like they make you much more susceptible
right,
to that disease. And in a way, if you want to look at the uh, you know uh, a possible good thing that might come out of this is that people are getting more aware about these things
yeah,
that are kind of taken for granted, ba?
yeah,
No? So
yeah,
did you notice that like more people are just like, oh, we got to start
yeah.
exercising.
There's a lot of fear, um, and fear drives us to change our behavior in a way. Uh, so can yun. And we saw, no, we looked at, there was PhilHealth ang nasa uso, but we looked at
Yeah.
data from PhilHealth, and I don't know, I'm starting to think that this data is not may not have been collected in an appropriate manner, but it is what is there. We're seeing the cost of like a heart condition can reach up to 1 million pesos, and up to 2 million even. And this is not for rich Filipinos, but this is just for right about everybody, no? So yeah, for normal families, and if we look at the statistics, yeah, 20% have heart disease, and then 15% are pre-diabetic. Yeah, everyone's spending this much money on diseases that they could have otherwise prevented by just eating well and working out.
Yeah, like kadang the so I it so on it's only recently that I started really kadang thinking about exercise as, you know, like a science.
Right.
No. Uh previously previously I just thought, just go
Yeah.
out there, get a sweat, and then mana, I'm done, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's your background, yun, diba? Like
Right.
you went to school for sports science,
Yeah. Yeah.
no?
Uh,
And uh-huh.
yeah. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I've only then the only reason I started even really thinking more about it was I started cycling and then trying to get better, and I've managed a tiny understanding of how to get better in the sport, no?
Hmm.
But I'm curious, what made you interested in sports science specifically?
Well, I was a former athlete. I started competitive sports at a very young age. Not advisable, but it is what happened to me. I started at the age of 6. At the age of 10, I was working with a Japanese coach, and we were already training 2 times a day, even
What
through
sport?
swimming. I was a swimmer.
Swimming.
Yeah, and we even used to train twice a day during school days at
Wow.
a really young age also. So I had that background. I went to a science school, so I had a good grasp of the sports side, and I had an interest on the science side. I did not know that it existed, that course. And when I was just looking at the application form for UP, it was there. So I tried it out. I figured, murag akong feeling namo at that time was there were a few of us, so we felt like pioneers, but it was already fairly established in Manila. In Cebu, there's a few of us, maybe less than five, na Cebuano involved in sports science. So it was an interest. It was there, and then I figured, just make the best out of it.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, kay, I remember like so when I was growing up, I used to play a lot of basketball and really I mean, nothing against our PE teachers, but really it
Yeah,
just felt like we went out there, did a warm up, and
yeah,
then practiced putting the ball in the hole.
yeah.
And uh and then now looking back, probably
Uh,
would have benefited a little bit from some specific training. I don't know if I would have done it because
uh,
I'm not a great student, but
uh,
I can imagine like there's a reason why the people who do it well are
right,
head and shoulders above everybody else.
right.
No, uh, kanang so like so you deal with a lot of athletes, of course, in Southwestern.
Yeah,
No, eh,
not a whole lot, but well, I have staff that does it for me.
okay.
So, but we steer the structure for it now. Well, working with athletes, I figured before na it was gonna be something that I wanted to do, and as it progressed, I learned that a lot of the things that we were doing for athletes also apply to members of the general population. Like for me now, for example, I don't consider myself as an athlete anymore, but I just consider myself as an average Joe, so to speak. But a lot of the things that we use for athletes are somewhat beneficial to us, with a little bit of tweaking lang.
Well, like what? Can you be specific?
Oh well, with athletes, you're so imagine like a car. Um, with athletes, you always think of them as a race car, which
Mhm.
means you drive them hard. You know, you drive them hard. They may break down a little bit faster because of all the pounding that's happening. So what sports science does is you try to figure out how can you make it just a little bit better. And the higher the level you go, let's say Olympic level, you know, the more difficult it gets, because the difference between first and second place is just a tone or nail, you know,
Yeah.
if you're just touching. So it gets progressively more difficult. um, Whereas if you're at the lower levels, then you have more latitude, but the sports science becomes more intense as you progress. So if I work with, say, an Olympian, the way I process it is so much different compared to, let's say, I'm working with um, an athlete that's just growing up. So to give you an example, let's say sleep, they measure everything, and it's crazy how, you know, sports science has been so uh, invasive to the privacies of a lot of athletes, that when they sleep, you know, someone like me would know, okay, you know, Stephen Curry slept 10 hours and 12 minutes today compared to 9 hours and 50 minutes yesterday. And
Did they release
although
that data? Like
it's
Steph Curry, it's out
really,
there.
well, it's not out there,
Ah,
but
okay.
the teams have it. The teams have it. Blood concentrations, hormonal concentrations. It's all there, and you know, everyone collects the data. Um, a field of interest that's happening now is over the past 10 years, and this is not yet even in the Philippines. Uh, they put in GPS trackers in the uniform. So let's say I know that a certain, let's say, LeBron James is going left 73% more at 4.6 meters per second compared
Mm,
to right at 3.8. And it's all of that, all of that, Jut, in
I
elite
think
athlete.
I think they use like the cameras Montanelli for that. Like they have these
Yeah,
3D cameras, I think, that
yeah.
analyze all of those things.
They're trackers.
Yeah, it's
All of
crazy. Oh, like, and but even like the sleep, for example, for like regular people, like what I know. So here. So my wife got me this Garmin watch,
all right,
and I use it primarily. Well, I use it for the bike, but also the other primary use for me is sleep. No,
right.
um, so I try to get. I'm not a great sleeper, so I try to
Uh,
get like 7 hours up. But I
okay,
notice if I get 7 hours up, Murag, there's a big difference in how I feel during the day because prior to that, kanang, so as I mentioned, I'd bike, right?
right.
And so to here in the Philippines, a lot of times if you want to bike, you wake up like really early, no,
Yeah.
like 5 o'clock, and
Uh-huh.
on a bike day, I'll probably get like 5 hours sleep, no,
Right.
because it's just hard to sleep early. I have kids and everything,
Yeah.
and so I notice if I do consecutive days ngayong ana, I really feel it good. Like anang
Mhm.
I'll be kind of tired, kind of grumpy, and then previously I wouldn't know the reason. But
Uh-huh.
now I just look at my watch, be like, oh yeah, I'm only averaging, a little, 5 hours something of sleep the past 4 days. Merg, that's probably it. May
Yeah.
ana ba?
Yeah.
Um, and so those are like metrics that you guys, what's the name, no? Like
Yeah. And,
even with the athletes here.
not with athletes here. With athletes here, we're more concerned about strength and conditioning. So how much can they squat? How much can they deadlift? How high can they jump? And then you just try to beat them into the discipline part of sleeping early. It's
Mm.
not that sophisticated yet. Um, the resources are not yet there to get all
Yeah,
these.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure like so I was listening to this podcast with I forgot his name, Peter Attia and
Uh-huh.
Inigo San Milan. No? And then they were just they were talking a lot about like zone 2, anana, and there was a lot of things that I couldn't understand,
Right.
right? I literally, asked Google like what is glucose? What is mitochondria? Kana
Yeah.
no? And
Yeah.
but still like they were talking about like the benefits of zone 2 and
Yeah.
how like how how different it is kanang when you're exercising in zone 2, your glucose levels go down. I might be totally messing this up, but
Okay.
like feel free to
Okay.
correct me. Your
Right.
glucose levels go down, but then once you go to like zone 3 or 4 or whatever, like higher, it actually goes up,
Hmm.
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Can you you're familiar with all that, like the different zones of exercise and
Yeah.
but there's like so many kinds of 'di ba like I there's so many like zone 1 to 7, like three zones, like five zones.
Uh-huh.
Like which do you use stuff like that for your athletes?
We do not as much. These training zones are more specific towards endurance sports.
Yeah.
So when you refer to zone one, the heart rate is a little bit lower. As the zones progress, the heart rate gets higher. The intensity, meaning the intensity of the activity, progresses, but the duration is not as long. With our athletes, predominantly basketball or volleyball, we're thinking of how high can they jump, how many times do they have to change direction, are they efficient when they change direction, do that they have that ability. And if we refer back to those zones, we think of their sport as high intensity intermittent sport, and what that means is you're doing stuff at a high intensity, but you're not doing it all the time. You sprint and then you walk or you jog. So the goal, it's called conditioning. The goal is to condition them to be able to do that repeatedly better than the opponent.
Mm. So
Right.
is there like so do you really measure stuff like that? Like
We measure the time. We measure. We call it a yo-yo test. It's a test wherein you have to run back and forth. The speed picks up, and then we want our athletes to be somewhere in level 25 or something. So basically, what happens is you sprint and then you come back. So it's a repeated sprint ability test, and that is what we use here for this
wait,
country.
can you be specific? So like so when you say yo-yo test, someone like let's say the length of a basketball court, and yeah,
The
they
length is around 20 meters.
okay.
So they have to sprint, and the starting speed is somewhere like 10 kilometers per hour. And
Mm.
like in every 30 seconds, it picks up. And so the highest you've recorded here so far was a level 23. Um, normative data from Gawas, the average is somewhere like 21. So we see all of that, and then we just try to benchmark.
So when you
And
say level 23, so level 1 is 10 kilometers per hour.
yeah,
And then
uh,
level 2 is
I think it's 10.5 if I'm not mistaken.
interesting. So
Uh,
so you just tell the athlete, okay, a little faster. And yeah,
yeah,
they just
yeah, and there's a beep. So there we have some trainers with clipboards and pencil, and they're just there recording, and they sprint. And the goal is to see some sort of improvement every 6 weeks or every 3 months. And then we get to a certain point na they're fit enough. They'll say like, okay na, let's decrease the training for this and increase your quick skill as acquisition. So what we mean by that is you're fit enough now. It's time. You're fit enough now, and that's not going to be a hindrance to your success. The hindrance to your success is not going to be your fitness level, but it's your skill level. So you must devote more time now to learning different skills. And the way we look at training is that you only have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So and an athlete has a specific tank of energy that you can put into training. The goal of, let's say, someone like me would be what is the best way for us to consume this energy that this guy actually gets better. And for some athletes that can be okay, get stronger. For some athletes that can be lose fat. For some athletes that's going to be get more condition to be able to run up and down over and over. Or for some athletes that have all of that, okay, it's time for you to deepen your understanding and application of certain sports specific skills.
No, so that's interesting. I do remember. So I mentioned I played basketball, and we would join like the alumni kanang basketball games. And of course, we get a coach, and
Yeah,
then in the beginning, we had time. The coach would always say, of course, we're like a bunch of middle-aged guys, so
yeah,
we're basically not fit.
yeah,
And so in the beginning, it was all like conditioning, all
yeah.
all kind of good, and then
Running.
basically yeah, just running, just keep.
Uh,
And then, like, everybody showed up. They just really just wanted to play basketball,
yeah,
but maybe would spend the first like 3 or 4 practices literally just
right.
running and jumping. And that's bro. But like when you're talking about like your athletes,
Uh-huh.
but there's a point where too much is too much because if they're going like all out, like
Hmm.
the way I am looking at it, because like that's true good, like basketball is a lot of like full gas, stop, yeah, full
Yeah,
gas, stop. uh
yeah.
but that's like really really tiring essentially, and kind of difficult to continue doing on a day-to-day basis, diba? So like
Mhm.
I'm sure you like recovery in mind also for these athletes.
Yeah. So there's a difference between, if we're talking about recovery, there's a difference between overtraining, which is doing too much, and under recovering, which is not enough recovery. Maybe you have 15 athletes, and um, what something that's coming out new is the measurement of heart rate variability. So the more variable your heart rate is, the healthier you are. Think of what we see on the movies, the ECG. You have waves, right? And
Yeah.
when you see that they're dead, it's a flat line. That means there's no variability. It's just a flat line. So the bigger the variability is, we think that the person is in a healthier state. What we can do is put on a heart rate monitor, and there are apps now. I have a friend who made his own app for this. And we measure the heart rate variability, and then we can assess if an athlete is overtrained or under recovered. And yeah,
So what apps? Yeah, I'm actually familiar with that heart rate variability.
yeah,
There's
it's in Garmin, di ba? Nasa Garmin,
well,
ah.
no, it's not in Garmin. It's not. They have like it's like a stress score. And yeah,
Uh-huh.
the one that's I'm blanking on the name. There's like this wearable gihapon that does
Yeah,
that basically they're making a name for themselves on heart rate variability.
yeah, yeah,
But it's it's expensive. It's like a
right,
monthly fee. And
yeah.
ba? And I
Uh,
mean, just I'm basically a weekend warrior. What do I
right.
need that for? But like, I'm really curious about it. So do you use that for your athletes? Do you have that capability?
We use it for some of our golfers, and for myself sometimes, just to see where I am for the day. So how it works is green, yellow, red, work stoplight. So kung green, okay, go. Yellow, take it easy, and then red, okay, just stop whatever you think you're planning to do, and watch a movie. So we are slowly transitioning into something like that. We use something that's a little bit more primitive, but does the job as well also.
What do you use? Like, I would be curious if it's just like
Right.
readily available.
So for however long you exercise, let's say you exercise for 60 minutes,
Mhm.
I'm gonna ask you something like, okay, how hard did you think that workout was? And if you say like,
Mm.
oh, it's a 7, so I'll multiply the number of minutes to the rate. which is 7. So that's 420. And I track that over the
So,
week.
okay.
Yeah, so let's say Monday it's 60 minutes at 7, so that's 420. The factor is 420. For let's say Tuesday it's 45 and then 45 minutes long. Then I ask you how hard was that, and you say something like 9, so that's 360. So I add all the days, minutes times how hard it was, and every week I get the sum of all those days, and I'm gonna tell our staff that okay, make sure that there's no increase of 20% over that week. If there is an increase of over 20%, we're pushing our athletes too hard. So
Mm.
we look at all that. If it's more than 4,000 per week, it also tells us that we're pushing our athletes too hard.
Yeah, so based on perceived effort,
Yeah, it's
basically.
a perceived effort.
Yeah. You know the so you know the so for cycling, I use so there's this app called Strava, no?
Uh-huh.
When yeah, what Strava has also, if you pay for it, is if you're using a heart rate monitor,
Mm-hmm.
it will I don't know how it does its algorithm and everything, no? But
Right.
basically it'll base your effort on heart rate, which heart rate is kind of way to base effort, diba?
Yeah.
And then it will base your effort on heart rate, and I guess it puts into account, I suppose, how many minutes you are exercising, and it comes up with its own score,
Yeah.
no?
Yeah.
And that's basically what it is, no? Kanang,
Right.
mm,
So,
yeah,
so
that's
it's a factor.
yeah, okay, okay. That'd be cool. And I thought like kanang you had like an app, good ba? Like something that connects
Right.
to
We
based on
use
heart
it
rate.
for ourselves, but not all our athletes will have it. As you said, it becomes more costly, and if you scale it up, it becomes a little bit more crazy. I can tell you that even PBA teams do not use these things. So we're
Yeah.
really, I would not say that behind, but there's still a lot that can be done with the fundamentals. And I feel like, these things become more beneficial once you have all those things taken care of. Or a
Yeah.
cherry on the top na lang gid siya.
Yeah, well, I think it's in a way it's kanang actually I think it's getting more and more affordable in that sense. Like
Yeah,
I basically just mentioned like the heart rate monitor with Strava, and yeah, that's not that expensive. But
right.
there's really I'm blanking again on the name of this thing. There's really a thing good that has a heart rate.
Yeah,
Kanang it's
yeah.
here, and yeah, it'll give you a score. Like
Yes,
a daily score.
there's a daily score.
Yeah.
One of my guys have asked it. I really just forgot the name. And it measures sleep. It measures, how much
Ah,
golf he did or how much, and even suggests how much he should do the next day.
yeah.
So it's really getting more. It's really getting more reachable and accessible to a lot of people. I'll give you an example. We know that force is equal to mass times acceleration, diba?
Okay.
So for the past, at its
Sure.
most basic, so for the past 30 years, more what a lot of sports science did was to measure the acceleration. So if I squat at 2 meters per second, that's a jump. If I can jump at 3 meters per second, I'm more elite. If I'm at 2.8, I'm above average, and so on and so forth. So I think 20 years ago, when I was interested in this sort of technology, they call it velocity based
Mhm.
training. Um, it cost 1 million for one setup. It
Wow.
cost 1 million pesos. So you have, let's say, a strength and conditioning facility for football where you have 15 squat racks, where people squat. So that's 15 million bucks on velocity based measurement. Now by it's like 18,000 pesos.
Oh
Just to
yeah.
do that.
Dali na kayo.
So yeah, it's really getting more accessible, and technology is increasing. They're really at the elite level. There's really very little things that they do differently from country to country. Uh, so pa main lakihay na lang yun. Who can perform at a high level when it counts, and it's really just a game of micrometers.
Oh yeah. Bro, so we've been talking a lot about like like these athletes good and no. I'd like to just steer it back a little bit to kanang like regular people, especially now nga it seems like the COVID tends to attack kanang the people who are passing away seem to have some comorbidity of some
Yeah,
sort and just people who basically you're just trying to get them to exercise, no? So
yeah.
I don't know, what is there a minimum dose for people to exercise?
Well, there's a global recommendation where people are suggested to move for at least 30 minutes every day, if that's intense, on most days of the week. So that's practically 4 days a week of at least 30 minutes to 1 hour of physical activity. What makes it more difficult for us here is we don't have the infrastructure. We don't have sidewalks. We don't have a
Mm.
lot of parks. If you don't live in a subdivision, becomes more tricky to get in your dose of physical activity. But yeah, there's a global recommendation: 30 minutes to an hour on most days of the week, preferably every day.
Oh, okay. 30
Yeah.
minutes to an hour,
Mm-hmm.
preferably every day. That's something, that's something I
Not
didn't
that
think
hard.
of. It's
Yeah,
not that hard. I mean,
it's not that
I
hard.
don't think it's hard at all.
Yeah,
No?
yeah,
No, but that's something I didn't think of when you said like we don't have the infrastructure. I actually didn't know what you meant at first. And then when you said Gamorg, no sidewalks, and I'm like, you're right. Like
right,
it's it's hard to do that
right.
if kanang, I can't na- I don't know how I'm just you're catching me thinking a little bit because I've been harping on like how Cebu City is kind of like I'm frustrated with the fact that it's hard to walk around here,
Yeah.
or there's no like infrastructure for that.
Mm-hmm.
And initially, I was just looking at it from the lens of just get. It's easier to get from point A to point B. It's kanang things like that lang, like logistics. But
Yeah,
also, there's really a health benefit that could save
yeah,
so much more money for the city in terms of like hospitalization and
yeah,
everything. No,
yeah.
going
So
back to lifestyle, the cost of lifestyle.
yeah, so I think things can be done. There are things that we can do to fix a lot of the things that we have now. Uh, but it really requires a lot of will, and a lot of expertise. Um, and I don't know when it will be prioritized, but this is something that we would love to, as Cebuanos, and to figure out. There are so many factors involved in it. Murag, ang growth of our city has been quite organic, meaning we don't really have a template. We just place things here, put a building here. There's not a lot of urban planning. And for people who travel a lot, they really experience, okay, for every subdivision, or for every few blocks, say 20 blocks, there seems to be a park. um, we see that in other places, but for us, we have the mall, where we can walk around. There are some green spaces in the city, but it takes some effort to get to lang. But
Oh
if you really
yeah, like
want to, you can really exercise.
if you rant a little bit, let's say about Fuente, like
Yeah,
that's a park in the city, but
yeah,
to get there, you have to walk through 4 lanes of cars.
uh,
If you think about it, it's kind of ridiculous.
yeah. Plus the
No?
air quality, and the air quality that we have. Um, I don't know if a lot of people notice this, but Cebu is on the east side, and we're facing the Pacific Ocean. And within our island is shaped, longitudinally, and we have mountain ranges in the middle. So what happens is the air from the Pacific hits the mountain ranges. So it's not really flowing from east to west or west to east. We have stagnant air, so the air quality suffers also for
Because it
us.
just comes back. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying? It just
from that.
it doesn't flow through.
Uh,
Mm,
so that's also a factor. But
well,
yeah, nothing we can do about
uh, well, actually, we can like I'll tell you right now that there are efforts being made to
it.
put up like kanang what do you call that mga bike lanes here in
Right.
Cebu. In Mandaue there are already. Talisay there are. One
Yeah.
of the good side effects of all of everything that's happening right now is that kanang people have started using bicycles.
Yeah.
Yeah, and which has forced government to for the first time ever take a serious look at it.
Uh-huh.
And
We hope it's gonna
Mandawan,
stay.
sorry.
We hope it's going to stay.
Yeah, I don't
This.
know. We'll see. That's the thing. People just need to use it. But my view is, my good. Like, we need it out there. Just put
Yeah.
it out. Wala na if it's not perfect,
Yeah.
so that you can encourage people to use it. Because
Mm.
if you just kanang business as usual, onya, you
Yeah.
don't do anything gihapon. When transpo comes back and everything, then people won't be encouraged anymore because it's legitimately difficult to bike around if there's no bike lanes, but you don't feel
Yeah.
protected.
Yeah.
No,
We need
but
a lot of bike skills.
yeah, I mean, I, I'll tell you, it took a while to get used to it.
Yeah, cats and dogs, and but I think it's trending in the right way. We're going into a healthier way of commuting. Um, and I'm sure there are a lot of people na, oy, my blood pressure decreased. Nagbike lang ko 1 month. So there are gonna be some positive side effects from doing a lot of that. Walking is one way, especially if for a lot of people who live in condos around Cebu Business Park or IT Park, and that's the closer we live to where we work, that allows us to walk more.
Yeah, yeah. That's why, like, yeah, that's honestly been a little bit of a frustration of mine, dude.
Uh,
It really has. Like, I mean, like you mentioned, anybody who's visited a city abroad, ba,
yeah,
walking the
you
whole
walk
time.
around. Yeah,
Yeah, and then
you
so
lose
some
weight. You eat so much, you lose weight.
well, I don't know, I don't know if you lose weight. That has not been my experience.
Okay.
No, but yeah, no, but like kind of true. Like you a lot of times like you go to a country abroad, and
Yeah.
then if you have like one of those things that counts your steps, yeah,
Right.
for the first time you're like, wow, I'm hitting 15,000 steps a day. Like I've never done
Yeah.
this in my life. Kanang yan na ba? And
Uh,
it's not that hard,
mm,
no? Onya kanang I don't know. I'm just hoping to see a better infrastructure lang yun here.
yeah.
It's frustrating good for me in a way, no?
Yeah, and we don't think. Well, we have to think about it because we don't have it, and it's not planned into how we live. But if it was planned into how we live, you know, we might take it for granted. So I think it's normal for us to really crave for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So kana ba? So like your work, do
Yeah.
you basta I notice you've been like you also write in Sunstar, no?
Right.
And you have like I think your writing is geared a lot towards like the
Hmm.
regular people, not the athletes, just people
Yeah.
like you just want them to cannot, take a walk.
Yeah.
No? Uh and then but so you deal with two fat oh, uh-oh. Epi, are you still there? Hello? Okay.
Hello.
Oh, yeah, they're still there?
Yeah.
Right. So ikaw ba? So you deal with like in a way you're also dealing with like athletes and then also regular people, no?
Yeah.
Kanang so when you're in at Southwestern, primarily the athletes, you're like the what is your role there in Southwestern again? Like
Well,
the
I'm
director.
a sports director, so we have coaches under us. We have a strength and conditioning coach, so I basically just manage the program. With Epic, that's when I get to deal more with athletes. I direct the programs of the athletes in Epic. Um, so we have boxers, we have golfers. In the past 2 years, we've taken in a lot of rehab and geriatric exercise. So that has been our thing, athletes and everyone in between. Really, from siguro our youngest client has been 7 years old, and then the eldest has was 93 when she came in.
Really?
Yeah.
So so let's start with the seven with the younger one. So sila they go to Epic to like improve performance.
Well, I, I, I I'm against doing that at that age. So we
Ah,
just
okay,
teach
yeah.
them how to use their bodies well. Let's say crawl, roll, do some agility. Just it's more of exposing them to the environment rather than letting the environment improve their skills. The older ones, we have a good group of 70 plus somethings. Um, the goal is really just to maintain whatever functional capacity that we have. No, so it could be something like just getting off the chair or
Mm.
behind your back. So, or just walking in a little bit more of a straight line. So, in a way, I would not say that it's rehabilitation, but it's a little bit more of exercise prescription for a special population.
Just basically forcing them to move in a way, no?
Yeah,
Mm.
and we take it for granted again because life's comforts. There's a bed, there's a chair. It's more comfortable to be sitting than standing. We take the car everywhere we go. So when you don't use a lot of these things, as you age, you eventually lose it. Um, we've taken in some injuries. For example, low back pain. We had a client, 40 years old guy. If he places his hands in front of him, um, there's a lot of pain in his lower back. And the advice that was given to him for the past 20 years was, don't move, don't move. So what happened was the muscles became smaller, the muscles became weaker. It could not support his posture, could not carry groceries because of severe back pain after that. So the intervention was okay. How do we get this guy stronger? Eventually, this guy was deadlifting 100 plus pounds.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so we yeah, and it's fulfilling rather than just seeing athletes all the time, which kind of gets it doesn't get old, but if you do that for so long, you're looking for new stuff to stimulate yourself with. So we get that. We work with boxers. Um, we have a golfer who left for Japan this last week. Yeah, he was not getting any training here because of all the quarantine.
Oh yeah.
So he had to leave the country.
Yeah, kana ba eh. So like for Epic ba? So of course with the whole lockdown and everything and considering the situation,
Yeah.
kanang are you guys open?
Uh, we did not think it was safe. We think of a fitness facility as primarily a health promotion facility. Unya, ako lang, murag, one advantage I have is we have aunts who are epidemiologists. I have an aunt who's an
Mm.
epidemiologist in Geneva with the World Health Organization. So I try to get as much advice from that medium. No? And the WHO said na you know, a fitness facility might be one of the hot spots, and we're seeing that worldwide. Now, you open a gym, it becomes a hot spot in the states. That happened in South Korea. It also happened. So we figured, na the liabilities that we could incur if we stay open are gonna be crazy. Simba ko lang. You don't want your brand too na I mean, COVID na dito sa ila. So we didn't
Yeah.
want pressure to.
Yeah, I
Mm.
think a lot of people have literally pressed pause on their businesses,
Right.
no? And
Right.
Mona, like we'll just have to ride it out, no?
Yeah.
The Yeah, I remember katong when Epic was still new, and yes, people were going to Epic and doing like the workouts,
Right.
and then they really said it was hard, like kanang like yeah, I don't know, like I knew a few people and I'm like, wow, I was just trying not to vomit when we were doing because it was hard, no, and I
That has
remember
changed.
being noteworthy because what did you say? Sorry.
That has changed though.
Oh yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I'll have to be honest about my background. Before I opened Epic, I was working with a lot of professional boxers and even an Olympian before 2012 London. No? So my exposure was really professional athletes who were getting paid to train a certain way. So I was wired a certain way when I opened Epic, and I have to be honest. I was not exposed to the general population as much as I should have. Maybe,
Ah,
so in a way, Murag, what was happening was, I would think that the workout was doable, but it was still not as appropriate as I could have made it. And eventually, as the years progressed, we figured out, maybe we can make it easier for different people. And actually, it's more difficult for me to work with someone from the general population compared to working with an elite athlete. So that's my issue. If you put me in front of an Olympian, it's probably easier for me um, than working with someone who's just looking to get fit. But fortunately, we've learned across the years, and we have staff who are quite good at it. So not just me.
yeah, I think like because if you're like if you're working with an Olympian, you know that okay, I just go
So
as hard as he can
yeah.
go.
And what was funny was kay murag we're just teaching a warm up when murag oy nga naman ni murag nalipong naman. So so there was a lot of that growing pains.
Mm.
Um, not to say that we experimented on people, but it was part of our process to
Oh yeah.
learn.
No, the problem with like the general public is you'll have people who are kanang who just want to move, who just want to
Yeah,
maybe lose weight, get a little bit fitter. But you'll also have people who are kanang like competitive semi athletes, kanang
yeah,
who can probably do the workout.
yeah,
Why
yeah.
not, 'di ba?
It's a little bit more difficult to read in a way because there are different motivations. The fitness levels are different, and eventually we figured out no, no. And I think this was just a product of my evolution from strength and conditioning coach to running a business to helping out and education was that a normal guy, who works 8 to 5 and is not going to be able to train as hard as an Olympian or an
Yeah.
athlete for that matter. So certain adjustments have had to be made, and I had to experience it too. When I started working a little bit half and half, half in a gym setting, half in a more formal capacity. It's something you figure out stuff as you go along.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Like so but I think the murky thing there is you'll also have the guy who works a 8-hour job but also will go hard.
Yeah. And that's really what we try to do at Epic is we really try to individualize our programs depending on what we think the person needs and what he wants. And sometimes it's a conversation. I think you need to do more legs. And starting out at Epic, a lot of guys did not want to do legs, squats. Kay sakit man. And as the years progressed, people figured out it's beneficial to work on your lower body too, and all of those things. So yeah, ang nakanindot sa fitness industry is, it's the consumer is also evolving, but
Mm.
you yourself as as the facility owner, and the guys providing the service also have to evolve. So I cannot trace anymore how we evolved, and our programs that we do for people now are so much different from when we started out.
I'm curious by, have you guys worked with like mga endurance athletes?
Yeah, we had a few. We still do have a few triathletes. The challenge lang with endurance athletes is, for a triathlete, you're probably spending 3 hours at least of your day, either swimming or biking or cycling, and then you add the strengthening component. It just adds a little bit more to your day. So if you're a professional, you work 8 to 5, you're triathlon, and you do strength training. These are the guys who are really super dedicated, and we have a few of those.
Yeah, because well, I don't. That's the problem with like triathlon, because you end up having to train all of these kanang disciplines ba, and then really there's
Yeah.
not that much time anymore. And
Right.
so I've been doing like a lot of cycling,
Uh huh.
and kadang I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm really training, but like I want to
Right.
do enough nga more. I can basically go all day on the bike, kanang, and
Yeah.
just keep going ba. And
Yeah.
but I'm also wondering if I'm missing anything by just. I'm sure I am, actually. I'm sure I am.
Uh,
No, but I'm wondering like what I'm missing by just staying on the bike. Like I'm sure there's like some sort of strength
right.
things that I'm missing.
Well, depends on what your goals are. If you just want to be able to bike the whole day, then well, that constitutes slowly increasing your work capacity to get to that. But strength wise, a lot of cyclists have less upper body strength,
Hmm.
and a lot of the times power, leg power, and strength could be neglected. But you guys will not have a problem with um, endurance. So if you just want to have your bases covered and do strength training, do some sort of jump training, and do some sort of upper body training. When it becomes too much is when you're actually starting to get heavy upper body muscles that weigh you down in the bike. And for some, like well, this is kind of indoor cycling. And I'm not sure if you watch YouTube videos of how Team Sky trains. Sometimes they'll tell a strength and conditioning coach to stop working on their butt muscles because it's creating a lot of drag.
Really?
In, it can get that crazy, and it can get that anal at times.
Oh yeah, I think Team Sky in particular, they're the ones man nga what's that, who.
Cutting edge yun.
Yeah, I think the if I'm not mistaken, they're the team who's like, so they would look at everything, and then then the number one question is this making them faster?
Right.
And if it's not, just cut it out.
Yeah. So it really is a certain way. So it kind of depends on where your goals are. For cyclists, there's an imbalance between quadriceps strength, meaning the quadriceps are the muscles in front of our thighs. Okay, you're pedaling downwards, so you're really working on that a lot. But we don't get a lot of strength in knee flexion, which is bringing your heel to your butt. Also an important muscle. So yeah, if you're really primarily training for your cycling, then work on that. After that, if you're transitioning to another sport, then it's really time that you work on your hamstrings too.
Mm,
Mm.
yeah, man. we've been talking for about an hour now. You
Yeah.
know, when I'm honestly, by I end up using a lot of these interviews as like personal consultations. you know, uh,
Yeah.
it's
Way to
kadang
do
a
it.
lot. Yeah, a lot of times, like this is just something that I'm interested in, and
Right.
as an interviewer, there's also like an underlying message that I want. Like obviously, especially now, but even before
Mhm.
this, you want to get people to exercise and
Yeah.
kanang and a lot and that's why I wanted to know, like, is there a minimum dose, because there are some people who just can't
Yeah.
get themselves to do it.
They're just after the minimum.
Yeah, but I found that like me, by actually I'm not a good, I don't exercise, like,
Yeah.
kanang I don't
In the
I
strict sense of the word. No.
yeah, you get what I'm saying, like I don't kanang go up and say, all right, I gotta do this
Right.
training.
Yeah.
Like I've always found that there has to be some innate motivation. So
Yeah.
previously it would be basketball, and
No.
with basketball, for example, I'd be uh or basketball and now cycling, I would be excited pa,
Yeah.
while I'm tying my shoes.
Yeah.
I gotta get out there, and
Yeah.
I found that if you find something that you genuinely enjoy, and then as a side effect also makes you sweat,
Right.
whatever reason,
Yeah.
then that's probably a good thing to just keep doing,
Yeah.
no?
Yeah.
So
I try to do that. Well, I don't have a lot of equipment where I am, so I don't, a lot of my usual training, squat, deadlift, uh, power power cleans, the Olympic lifts. I don't get to do that, but something that I really enjoy now is sprinting. And we
mm,
live near a hill, so maybe I'll do like a 30-meter sprint and do like 12 to 15 of that. Maybe I'll just spend an hour walking the dog. So it's not as structured. I don't think, no, this time. Well, with my current goals and the context that we're in, we're gonna kayo yung luxury of being picky, and so I get to do whatever's there. I love boxing, so
mm,
I have a punching bag, and maybe 2 times to 4 times in a week I'll box for at least 20 to 30 minutes. So yeah, ako daog na.
oh
I'm
yeah.
happy,
Oh,
getting
boxing
able
is
to.
tiring, man. Boxing is
Yeah,
tiring. I tried
bo-
that.
boxing is tiring. So I've always enjoyed boxing. It's a sport that I'm a huge fan. Out of all the sports, I think boxing is something I really enjoyed working on myself and also being around.
Mm. Bo- Boxing, yeah, I remember. Yeah, I tried boxing like in Ala Gym, and
Uh-huh.
then
Kutas.
yeah, so they teach you how to box, that. So like, okay, cool. I'm like, oh wow, I know now how to box, like that. And then they start. I think it's like they start like letting you do like I don't know, like combos, but not or whatever. Like, okay,
Yeah.
one, one, two, under, yeah, uppercut, whatever, and then okay, and then it's finally 2 minutes, go, and then then you just keep following what the guy says, and then wow, the
Yeah.
2 minutes is slow. you
It's a
know?
good way to train. Yeah, and it's really hard on everything. It's hard on the heart. It's hard on a lot of the upper body muscles. But it. Well, I really enjoy it, and a lot of other guys do too. But I do it lang na murag lingaw-lingaw. So yeah, I think exercise. You have to find something that you enjoy doing,
Yeah.
and you get you get on it. Some people like to dance. I like to dance, but um, that's something that people don't think about. But
No,
yeah,
yeah.
I love dance. I enjoy dancing, but yeah, you really have to find what floats your boat.
Do you spar, by?
No, I don't spar. I
You
don't
don't
spar.
spar.
Yeah, I don't know how to spar yet.
Oh, so you're thinking about it?
I'm thinking about it. Kinda, what I've learned in sport was if you're going to compete against someone or have physical contact with someone, look for someone who's actually good at what he's doing, like a professional boxer. Okay, the reason is a pro boxer will know how to control his force against you. If I trained against someone same level, pagay yun na sigurado. So bunog siguro yun, but
Yeah, with the professional boxer, you're not gonna win, but he's also
yeah,
not gonna hurt you.
he's not gonna beat you up unless you tell him to.
Yeah, like, yeah, it's like that even in basketball. Like you'll play with
Yeah,
somebody who doesn't know what he's doing sometimes. We're I gotta
the
stay away
elbows
from.
are flying all over.
Yeah,
uh, so
yeah. So see, and then the other thing I was thinking about, but like with the exercises that you like to do, they're kind of like they're high intensity
mhm.
stuff. No, you're
In
not
a
doing a
way,
lot of like zone 2 stuff.
yeah. I did so much zone one, zone two, zone three stuff when I was a child, so I'm very allergic to it now.
Oh,
Um, I used to be able to swim 10,000 meters in a day in one
oh wow.
training session. That's 10 kilometers. And it would take me around 3 hours to do. So yeah, we did a lot of zone one to zone three stuff. So now I find myself gravitating to shorter, more intense stuff. But the thing with exercise is, and for someone like who has a background like mine, I did a lot of that when I was younger. Is that the physiological adaptations tend to stay with you. And if you ask me to run 5 kilometers, even if I don't practice it as much now, you give me 3 weeks, I'll be able to do it. I'm good. Uh,
Mm.
because the lungs have been so developed from my past, and my heart has it's so used to it, and it just really remembers that. So yeah, I can go to all of that zone one, zone two, zone three. I just don't enjoy doing it as
Yeah,
much.
I didn't ask you about that. So like, is that why you don't wanna like kanang like kids, but you don't want to like force a sport on a kid, so because they
Uh,
end up enjoying it.
in a way, in a way, because I went through it, and also because the exercise science literature is not in favor of it anymore. Um, this morning, I was just working on a project with the Department of Education, and we're prescribing long-term athlete development. This is a concept that was proposed first in Canada. The way it works is there are different stages of the development of a child, and correspondingly, that has to be how you create fitness and activity programs, and even sports programs. So from 0 to 6, it's called an active start. So from that age group, basically, you just want kids to be active and play for as much as they can. Pag abot sa 6 to 9 years old or 6 to 8 years old, they call it fundamentals, wherein children learn fundamental movement skills like catching, throwing, kicking, all of those things, no? And then the next stage is learning how to train in sports, where there's a little bit more structure, but
So what
there,
ages is 10 to?
yeah, you just follow that process. And what happens is it considers the kids' cognitive and psychosocial development, and it makes up for healthier children that will learn to love physical activity for their lifespan, rather than be, I'm allergic to sport, I did it too much. So that's really the goal why we do this, to get more people to be active for their life.
Yeah, I'm curious because as you know, like I just mentioned, I have two
Yeah.
kids. They're both boys, and yeah,
Uh-huh.
just it would be one of my one of the things I daydreamed about before I had kids was, one day it'd be cool to play basketball with them. And
Yeah.
then I started doing the math. I'm like, wow, when they're like 20, be I'll be like barely able to move in a basketball court.
Or-
Like right now, it's now my dream is like they'll go biking with me.
yeah.
That's what you can do, like really old.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, Pio, thanks so much, Baya, for doing the
No
podcast. You know, because it's good to hear your story. I learned a lot also, and like how these athletes, how to deal with like athletes, and especially also how to hopefully teach my kids to be, to love sport in a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
No,
It
is
is
there
my
anything
pleasure to be here.
Sorry.
It was my pleasure to be here. It was
Oh,
fun talking to you too.
thanks, bye. Thanks. Is there anything I missed? Something you want to talk about?
Well, I think to close everything, we look to talk about sports and fitness, but you mentioned you had kids, and it's also a way for them to learn a lot of life skills and values, and besides being active for their lifespan, as parents, diba, we want our kids to have grit, to have determination and perseverance, and I think sports, having kids do sport is one way to accomplish that.
Oh, for sure. I think I learned that
Yeah,
through sport as well.
yeah.
No, where can people find you online, by?
Well, yeah, and anyone can send me a message on Facebook or like my Instagram page, Body by Epic. And we also have a Facebook page for Epic, Epic Performance and Fitness. So anything health related, well, exercise related and sports performance related, we're here and happy to serve.
All right. Thanks, man. I will
Okay.
end the broadcast. Right.